Hello and welcome to today's coaching Q&A session. I'm Wendy Greer with Learning Strategies and MINDTRX, and I was going to start today by talking about the power of forgiveness. This is such a potent topic. It's just incredibly impactful on how people live their lives and how they experience life. I think one of my favorite descriptions of not forgiving and bearing a grudge and carrying resentment is it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And that is such an apt description because resentment and not being able to forgive and being stuck in that state of just grudging that, and anger at what somebody did really puts you in a place where they win because you're beating yourself up for the rest of your life, and it's a win situation for them. I think I've known most of my life that lack of forgiveness is an issue for your mental state and the way your feelings are being processed in the world. But when I did some training with Chunyi Lin, I started to really understand the bigger impact because body, mind, and spirit are so linked. And Chunyi Lin was a Qigong master that I did quite a bit of training with, and that we've actually done Learning Strategies, done several courses with. And he is huge on the health ramifications of mental states and feelings. And so the ramifications of lacking the power to forgive and to move on and to stop beating yourself or trying to beat somebody else up, metaphorically, is that you really impact the body. In particular, anger and resentment affect the liver, and hatred affects the heart. So those are some mainstream, main body functions that you want to have be optimal. Chunyi is a great representative of the power of forgiveness. He lived in China with his family during the Cultural Revolution, and apparently there were some pretty horrendous things happen then. And he developed into a young man with an incredible hatred of the regime, of what had happened, and a lot of resentment. And how that started expressing itself was really intense pain in the knees. Apparently it was severe arthritis, bone spurs in his back and neck, a lot of pain, and intense depression to the point where he was almost ready to end his life. And what happened was a Qigong master was in town. Apparently they hadn't managed to close down all the traditional modalities yet. And he did a big sort of mass class at an arena near where Chunyi lived, and Chunyi went to that. And so Chunyi developed a relationship with him and really wanted to work through what he had going on. And the master was, you've got to focus on a joyful state, the state you want to live in, and you need to forgive. And Chunyi says, I can't forgive. It's too intense. It's too heinous. It's too god awful. I can't do it. And the master told him, then pretend to forgive them, because in doing that, you will start to heal yourself. And so what that evolved into is his symptoms abated. Chunyi is now the most loving. He's the kind of person that when you meet him, you feel like you can tell him everything would be okay. His big thing is that we all should be love radiators, that we're sort of emanating love from an open heart. And so in that state, of course, you're receptive to receiving and to giving it out, and it's just a great symbiotic relationship. One of his monikers is don't blame anything. Because if you're blaming, you're pointing the finger, you're giving your power away, you're stepping out of your own persona, you're letting somebody else control you, and you're holding on to a story that's gone. It's gone forever. So when you're holding on to that, you're going to continue to experience the anger, you're going to continue to experience the depression, and it's a horrible cycle to be caught in. So one of the things that I really think I internalized from Chunyi is that when you forgive others, you're also forgiving yourself. And so it's almost like you are shamed by your experience of the resentment and the anger and the pointing the finger. And so when you forgive them, you are also forgiving yourself. And so you also get the benefit. And another key component of what Chunyi teaches is that unconditional love resides within you. You don't find it outside you. It is within you. So it's really a significant shift to experience. Drama tends to be created by emotional entanglement. And so families that have a lot of drama or relationships with a lot of drama, if you are breaking that snarl, that series of knots, then you are not only sort of ending that entanglement, but you're also giving that other person a chance to become a better person. So it's a great symbiotic relationship, and it's incredibly powerful. Another thing that crossed my desk just last week that I sort of like to bring up, I'm beginning some training in hospice and death doula. And there were some end-of-life comments from a teacher who said that she consistently sees the same things, the same themes coming up as people are getting ready to transition. And one of the ones she brought up was, if we hold on to pain, anger, resentment, guilt, shame, any of those contracted emotions, it allows what has happened in the past to hang over our heads, and we can't move out from under that cloud. So it prevents us from showing up fully here and now and making the most of our current lives. So forgiveness is a huge component of allowing you to move forward and create exactly the future you want. It really sort of equals the end of resentment. It just takes it off the board, and it's no longer an issue. Everybody knows I love synchronicities, and I was going through my notes thinking about forgiveness, and I came across a comment that Oprah Winfrey said that Jerry Jampolsky, who is the gentleman I brought up, I believe it was last time, that was a psychiatrist who was going through a tough phase in his life and came across A Course in Miracles, and that one of the basic principles in there is there are two emotions, love and fear. They can't coexist. So if you're in one, you can't be in the other. Well, apparently Jerry Jampolsky appeared on Oprah's show, and I wanted to read this. It is such an awesome distillation of what I'm saying. It says, in 25 years of hosting the Oprah Winfrey Show, Oprah experienced more than a few aha moments. But there was one particular life lesson, she says, that's always stood out from the rest. It was one man's definition of forgiveness that changed my life. It took me to another level. Dr. Gerald Jampolsky appeared on the episode in 1990. During that show, he asserted that the secret to happiness was forgiveness, which he described in a way Oprah had never experienced before. It really means letting go of the past. It really means letting go of our perception that we need to hold a grievance the rest of our lives. If we really want to hold on to grievances, we will never, never be happy. It's really a willingness to see the person in the light of love rather than in the action that happens or happened. Jampolsky went on to elaborate on the connection between forgiveness and the past. It really means letting go of the past that we thought we wanted, he said. We can't really change that past, so it means really releasing the negative perception of it and coming back to the present. Oprah cannot understate the impact this had on her. That was a transcendent moment for me, she says. He said, forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could be any different. She said, you think forgiving means accepting what has happened to you. Well, it is accepting that it has happened to you, not accepting that it was okay for it to happen. It is accepting that it has happened, and now what do I do about it? And that's just such an awesome summary. I mean, how you can step forward from there. You take your power back, you step into your future, and you decide what you are going to do about it. What are you going to do about that situation? And as she said, it's not condoning. It's not saying it's okay. It's just saying it happened. I acknowledge it happened. Now what can I do? And that puts you back in the driver's seat. And that is a great place to be. So forgiveness is huge. It is enormous. It's been an interesting experience here for me when I've had people that were in deep resentment and deep either shame or wanting to punish somebody, either turning it on themselves or turning it on somebody else. And when it shifts, their voice shifts. If I'm with them, their body posture shifts. There's an openness, there's a radiance. It completely shifts everything. So just a few things to think about as you go about your day in your life. So we had quite a few questions today, but several of them were very similar. So I'm going to put a few of them together. The first one, I'm not positive I totally understand what's being asked. It's what's up with the reptilian programming and subliminal? I think what you may be getting at is where is Paul coming from? Paraliminals are not subliminal messages. There is nothing hidden. There is nothing covert. It is all up front. And one of the challenges with subliminal messages is sometimes when you actually see what is behind that you can't actually hear, there are some double negatives which make it a positive. So you need to be careful who's doing, if you're going to use subliminals, you need to be careful. Paul, with his background in neurolinguistic program, is just a master wordsmith. And he, as I've said before, he's artfully vague, but he gets you pointed in the right direction and then leaves it open for you to choose how you want to move forward. Now, reptilian brain is largely connected with survival and security. So it's sort of the lower ones of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you've seen his hierarchy, where you move up through the different phases to the crown chakra, where you're really have the eagle eye view of life, of the life cycles as you work through them. So the reptilian programming is generally the survival mechanism. So what you want, a lot of us get stuck in those, because if we had a fear-filled and our survival was threatened when we were younger, we learned to live from the reptilian brain. And so what paraliminals can help you do is break out of that orientation. So I hope I answered your question. If not, email Coach at MINDTRX, MINDTRX.com, and I can clarify whatever I didn't understand about that one. So that would be an abbreviated answer to that. What is the paraliminal lineup for really staying positive and seeing many possibilities that would help turn around some negative tendency of thinking? I generally look on the bright side, but feel I'm letting myself slip into woe is me more often about my job search. Okay. There's a lot of that going around right now. You are not alone. One of the things I would suggest is don't watch the news as much, because I've even got to the point in the gym where when I go in the morning, I won't sit and will not work out in front of a TV with the news on, because it's just, oh my goodness. And don't watch it before bed. That's a totally pragmatic comment. From the paraliminal context, gratitude is wonderful, because if you're focusing on what's working, you get more of what's working. In fact, gratitude journaling, I had mentioned that in an earlier coaching call. If you start your day, just leave a journal wherever you have your tea or coffee in the morning, and just every day, without fail, 5 things you're grateful for. You can't repeat yourself. So you start with the obvious things, and the more you look for things to be grateful for, the more things you will find. It's like you're reinforcing it, and you can do it before bed as well. So that's an awesome tool. But the gratitude paraliminal would be one I would go to. Joy. I would definitely go to joy. One that is underutilized that I think is really good for this, and this sort of addresses the other question was how to feel grateful. So I'm going to address I'm addressing both yours, Leslie, and then this one, which was anonymous. Finding treasure is about recollecting all your capacities, all the potential that's always around you. And so finding treasure combined with gratitude journaling can be a really potent combination, because it really gets you focused on what is working, what you would like to see more of, what you would like to engender in the world. And another thing I might mention, was going to mention the paraliminals that I would use for forgiveness. So anything that's going to keep you more expanded is going to be helpful. The ones I had chosen for the forgiveness would be fresh start, fearlessness, euphoria, joy, and gratitude. And you can see all of those put you in a resourceful state. They help you to expand. They help you to come from a state of love, and they help you to be more full of that powerful, positive energy that you want to engender to work through that. So that would be my abbreviated answer. Depending on why you feel, and this is always true for paraliminals, depending on why you feel you're experiencing something, go through the paraliminal titles and their subtitles and see which seem most pertinent to what your specific circumstances are. But gratitude journaling, focusing on what's working, watch some kids for a while in the playground, that'll boost you right away. I always feel very grounded out in nature, so it might be getting out in nature and really appreciating the greenery and all the miracles that are happening all around us all the time. Einstein said 2 ways to look at the world: everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle. Choose everything is a miracle, and you'll keep finding miracles. You'll keep finding the magic. So trust the process and trust your capacity to do that. Okay, Wendy, I am lost in my head and can't seem to slow down my mind long enough to focus on what needs to get done. I'm having trouble completing my work and feel so scattered about everything. Any recommendations? A lot of people have so many balls in the air that prioritizing just has to be a key. one of the things that Jack Canfield endorses is an hour of power. And it's 20 minutes of contemplative meditative work, 20 minutes of exercise, and 20 minutes of academic pursuit. What I noticed when I was trying to do that, and I that was a little lopsided for me. I like to work out longer, but I do like to get my meditation in. But when I was spending time in the morning, sort of taking a look at my day, what went well yesterday, what would I like to see today, I would rearrange my priorities, because sometimes we set a priority list and we think it's written in stone. Sometimes things will shift. So sometimes when you feel a little chaotic, it's like you almost get a sense that you're not doing what's the most important thing that day. So checking your priorities regularly, I think, is huge. It's almost like coaching yourself. You know, what didn't I get done today that I wish I had done that would have been maybe a little better than completing this, or, you know, so take a look at your priorities and see what is your absolute yes, you know, what absolutely needs to be done, get that done. And then, you know, what is going to be most significant based on where you're at that day. I immediately went to focus and concentration for what you're describing. Focus and concentration, the subtitle for that is, let me read it here, accomplish more in less time with focal point thinking. And that's what we're after. That focal point is the prioritizing. It's the focal point. You know what you're wanting to get done today. You know what your priority is, and that's what you're going to focus on. Another couple of thoughts would be the 10-minute supercharger. The nice thing about 10-minute supercharger is it's easy to fit into your day, and it's like a power nap, and you come back refreshed, and you just have a clarity about you that is just phenomenal. So try doing that in the middle of the day if you're having a frazzling day and you feel like you're not getting done what you need to do, because that might be the piece you need, just to take a power nap. You know, get clear on where you're at, what you've done, what you are choosing to get done, and use that as a tool to help, you know, finesse that. Get around to it is good if you are all over the board and you have a lot of unfinished. So get around to it. You know, that all those unfinished things have little energetic barbs, and so they're going to make you feel diffused and chaotic. So if you can maybe try get around to it and see if that helps you to finish some of the unfinished smaller projects that would take less time, and that will make you feel more in control. And then self-discipline is good, because it helps you to stay on track, but to ascertain what's the most aligned with what's most important to you today or this week, or, you know, whatever time frame you choose. So that would be another one I would take a look at. Just a few thoughts. I sort of ramble there, but there's so many possibilities. It's hard to pick a single one, but I can share, you know, what I know I've seen work for other people. So Charles is experiencing mysterious setbacks or pauses when moving forward. I know I'm not the only one who experiences this. Is this a test from the universe? Interesting question. There's a couple things that come up right away for me that I've experienced, you know, working with people here. Sometimes it's a values misalignment, and I've addressed this in another Q&A, but if you truly don't value what you're working on, what you're getting sidetracked from, it's almost like your other than conscious is pulling you off, going, are you sure you want to be wasting your time on this? Can't you delegate this? You know, is this something that really matters to you, or is this something you should dump? So, you know, that would be something you might want to consider. The other thing is that sometimes those pauses are actually plateaus where you need that space to sort of regroup and re-energize, and then you're ready to launch forward to the next step. So sometimes that plateau is a needed intermediate step to sort of regroup, you know, chunk down what you're going to do next, get clear, and then take the next leap. So, you know, there's a number of possibilities, but you know, what you might do is try, say, self-discipline, success built to last. Those are two that are really great for getting you on track and keeping you moving forward. But build in something in the intention. Is there a message for me here? Because I seem to be dilly-dallying and I'm not sure why. Is there something I need to see? Is there a message? Is there something that I'm not getting that I need to understand? Is there some wisdom trying to come through here? And you know, check for the delegate or do it, you know, because sometimes you just need to decide which it is, and some of them need to be removed from the plate. So, okay. Laura, I'm new, so I might be asking a question that's been asked many times before. What's the best way to use paraliminal? So, for example, is it best to listen to the same one repeatedly for a couple of weeks, or is it okay to jump around from one topic to another, depending on how you're feeling? I have answered that before, but it bears repeating because it's one of the questions I get most. No cookie cutter answer, but what I have noticed is that 1 or 2 goals at a time is generally all you can do effectively. If you're working on more than 1 or 2, you get too diversified, you're too spread out, and you don't do anything well. Most people do better with 1 or 2 paraliminals at a time. Generally with a paraliminal, you're going to feel some kind of shift. So generally, if I'm visiting, like when we have a new paraliminal and it's pertinent to what I've got going on in my life, I might listen for 2, 3, 4 days in a row. And then I feel like I've shifted and then I'm ready to move on. So pay attention to your results, do more of what works. I like to meditate in the morning. I like to do my paraliminals later in the day. I especially like to do paraliminals at night because I have some really interesting dreams. And if you're going to do that, keep a journal next to your bed and catch a tendril of the dream, because even if it's really vivid when you have just woken up, if you wake up in the middle of the night, you may not be able to remember it unless you get just a little piece of it, because then often that piece will tease back to what the original thoughts were. So I would definitely encourage you to do that if you're going to do them at night. And, you know, one of the things you can do is sometimes you can piggyback goals on each other. So if they're related, like say you're trying to lose weight, but at the same time you're trying to stop smoking, you might be using perfect health along with ideal weight. So sometimes you can use them in tandem and they'll support each other. That's what the paraliminal accelerator is all about, using all the paraliminals coming from different perspectives for the same goal, because you will get incredible insights on why you aren't already there. So I've had people have breakthroughs on paraliminals we would never have thought of using, but it was the piece they needed to make things fall into place for them to get some clarity. Last question. Since my husband's death 2 months ago, I have had some issues forgiving myself, times when I wish I could have done more for him. Intellectually, I understand that I did more than my best. Letting go is a big paraliminal for me. There are so many that seem helpful, like self-love. Any others that you would recommend? The 2 you've got are mentioned are great. I would probably also experiment with seeing the unseen. One of the things I have really, really come to understand is everybody is doing the very best they can at the time they do it. It may seem in retrospect like, how could I have been such an idiot, or how could they have been such a fool? Or, you know, there's all these ways we can beat ourselves up or hold other people accountable for things. But people are doing the best they can. And some of them just, you know, plain and simply don't have the template for doing it differently. You know, I don't know what happened in this circumstance. However, you know, I had a challenging relationship with my mom. And when I went through her things after she passed on, there were so many things I understood about her and why she did what she did that I was having so much trouble forgiving, that was a real eye-opener for me. And I did the best I could with the knowledge I had. And I know that, Terry, you have done the same. You did the best you could. You know, I think it was Eben Alexander says that the guy that had the past life experience, I think he was a neurologist, there is nothing you can do wrong. You are loved dearly and forever, and there is nothing you can do wrong. So I know that's hard to accept, and especially when you think you could have done something differently that would have been more impactful. But we all do the best we can with the information we have at hand, and forgive yourself, love yourself. I'm sending you a big hug. We're all powerful beyond belief, and we all do the best we can with the information we have. And you know, over the years, I've heard some pretty crazy and scary stories, but ultimately they were all growth opportunities. And you know, that maybe that's the way to look at it too. What can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time? You know, what could I have done differently? What do I want to be sure I learn from this? What's the wisdom? You know, what's the opportunity to learn here? What's the growth opportunity? So, and that is it's a tough job helping somebody to transition. So hats off to you for being there for that and doing that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I think that's all the questions we had. I am going to say goodbye for this time. Remember to forgive yourself for any transgressions, forgive anybody else for any perceived transgressions, and just stay in your power. Stay in that unconditional love. Be that love radiator that Chunyi talks about. So love you bunches, and we will see you again next week. You take care. Bye-bye.